So to demonstrate, and now it's on. So it sounds a bit more like that kick. If I didn't want it to sound like that, I could just change to another kick. Or another. Right? So this is how you can basically make your kick sound a lot like a sample without actually using a sampler, and you get to be the jack that's actually able to play electronic music with an acoustic kit and doesn't need no samplers. Yay! Anyway, filter removes, notch filter, just removes some frequency I didn't like. Distortion makes it a bit heavier and grittier and, you know, just distorts it a bit. And then, so currently it sounds like this. Now, because we don't need all the low end, just use a high pass filter to just leave the high end. Cool. Again, tool device. Keep the levels in check. Now this one's a bit lower because with the filter, it actually does reach 0, but without it, right, that's why it's not hitting 0 all the time. But it is actually because the transient, anyway. Okay, so then finally you have these convenient levels here, which you can use to then blend the signal together, and all together now it sounds like this. So we went from this kick to this electronic kick. Now this, because of the nature of these processing chains, it reacts to how loud you play, it reacts to whether you play near the rim, whether you play a rim shot, whether you this or that or the other. So it's fairly responsive actually. Now the snare layer is pretty much identical to the kick layer, so all the same devices, but I just loaded different samples into the convolution reverb, and I, you know, because the snare is not hitting at this fundamental, but it's up there, I moved that filter cutoff there. So the snare is nigh on identical to this. So again, snare. Right. Now for the hi-hat. So the hi-hat. Again, yes, yes, yes. We know that already. Now, these are the two things that make this sound like this. Cool. So this sounds quite a lot like just an electronic hi-hat, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Now, what I did to create this sound was I was looking for some inspiration into how an electronic hi-hat should sound like, and I loaded up this device, which is an Hihat made by Bitwig. And here you can basically create your hi-hat sound that sounds like synthesize it. And the interesting thing is, with this mix knob, you can look at what the components of that hi-hat sound are. And I found that it was white noise, which is this psh, psh, psh. And then there's some funky stuff that's going on. Basically, there's some resonances, just some peaks, just individual like sine waves playing at the same time that are not harmonically related, which makes it sound a lot like a metal plate is being struck, because that's how metals resonate when they're struck. And you blend those together and you get a sound like that. So we do that with, so we have these here layers. This is the noise layer, right? So, distortion to distort the sound, EQ to remove the low end and then boost the highs. And, you know, without it, it would sound just like this, right? Distortion. Okay, next is the metal sounding layer. And this, so I basically just looked at what those sine wave peaks were with the electronically synthesized hi-hat, and then I replicated those with these knobs. So in Ableton you have a resonator device. This the one in Bitwig is called what resonates a bank. So I just tuned the frequencies to those frequencies I was seeing in the synthesized hi-hat, and we went from 2. So as you can see, there are some frequencies that are being boosted there. And then I just use another bit crusher to make it a bit more, see, there's some extra harmonics that are being generated up here, which makes it sound a bit more piercing. So together, it sounds like this. But because I wanted it to be very fast, I did that same trick that we did for the transient in the kick and the snare. So replace a device, note mod device, with an envelope, and then that's modulating the mix knob here, and that makes it sound a bit faster and a bit more transient-y. So we go from this to this. And then all together now. Whoops, sorry. So that's it. That's how you make that sound like that. And everybody, have fun. By the way, if anyone wants to collaborate on some stuff, if anyone's a bassist or plays a guitar, I'm also doing some funky bass processing and guitar processing here. I'll show that next week, but if anyone wants to collaborate, please let me know.